And good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your Sensei Al Bob. Here I am. I got probably 15, 20 minutes left here, and I was playing a little bit of New Dimensions this morning of a psychologist talking about meditation. And that's a very good channel, New Dimensions. Go check it out. And so there are a lot of great things on the internet. Really is. Really. I would say that I remember being with the people who invented the World Wide Web, right? Those boys over in Stanford. And because my girlfriend was the queen, right? And her best friend, she was also the queen of the digital universe, those two ladies. And pretty much, you look all through science, black people and women were the moving forces, right? Like McCormick Reaper, um, good old Mr. Peanut, you know, Dr. Carver. And so I just want to tell you that, you know, I started Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob, me, your sensei. You're out here to tell you a story, and I tell you stories, and I give you insights, and it works best when you guys actually are in this. These are live chats, right? Um, it's pretty obvious that because majority of my audience is not in the United States, it's around the world, and the majority of them are people who are interesting, and a lot of them who used to in the beginning we used to have a very very vivid kind of discussion, and there were a lot of different people. They weren't all the same. This wasn't a silo. This was a place where lots of different people could come and talk. And the algorithm seems to shut that, not got rid of it. You know, I guess maybe the majority of the audience doesn't want that. Doesn't want an open voice, right? But that's what the World Wide Web was invented for. And it is in its essence that's kind of what it's doing, um you know Mr. WikiLeaks has been allowed, he's been incarcerated for the last 14, 15 years to go back to Australia as a man. I'm sure he's not going to recognize the Australia he left. um and he will probably just find a nice little. It's a lot hotter. I mean, Australia, everyone I knew, I lived in Australia for 3 years. Me and Donna and Ann, we lived in Australia for 3 years. And everyone I knew in Australia, hundreds of people, all died of skin cancer. I mean, today, I stopped to help someone, and they were like in the sun. And, you know, I have this like 170 SPF super duper um, you know, UV block spray. And I said, "Hey, boy, you're awful red. Don't you want some sunscreen?" And they said, "No, no, no. That causes cancer." I said, "Really?" This woman goes, "Yes, everyone I know who ever used it died of cancer." And I said, "Oh, really? What kind of cancer did they get?" "Lung cancer." "Oh, did they smoke cigarettes?" "Yes, but that didn't. It was the scum block that did it." I said, "Oh, well, that sounds very scientific to me." And that's a good example of your general public. It's not that they're stupid; they have been domesticated to be lazy, and and go. The two super addictions that we have on this planet at this time. It doesn't matter where you are. It's convenience and belief. Right? And so, and those are the killers of our civilization. A thousand years from now, when guys like me are going, "Well, what happened? What happened to that civilization? It seemed like it was doing pretty good, and then it ate itself. It just went batshit. What happened? Addiction to convenience and belief, and that's why I live out here. I mean, and I live. I could have built a big house, a big fancy everything, blah blah blah. I had money to do it. I had a good 15, 20 years of where I had lots of money to do it, but I didn't do it. Right? I didn't even stay here that much because I had other places I stayed in that at that time were, I had a really nice place in Stewart, Florida, right on the intercoastal, right where it opens up to go out into the ocean, and it was that area where Hollywood stars in the 30s had their winter homes. Anyway, and it was a beautiful, beautiful house, very southern, one story, and it had 12 bedrooms and a big ballroom and a dining room and a library and a great kitchen and two off buildings and two little bungalows. And me and my lawyer buddies, we bought it for nothing because there was a break in the sewer line right there because this house was at the end of the cul-de-sac, right there on the water. Had a big, beautiful lawn, about an acre, with badminton, croquet, and it had its own dock, right, boathouse. And I think we bought it for $23,000 in '08 when the market was like, right? And so I went to them and said, "Hey, look at this place." And they said, "Oh yeah." And they said, "You fix it up, you get a hand of it." So I said, "Okay." So I was going to Lowe's one day, and I found this guy in the parking lot, and he said, "We'll work for you know for food." And I said, and he had a truck full of tools, and I said, "So, you have you ever done any septic work?" "Oh yeah, I know. I know plumbing, septic. I know it all." I said, "Oh, good, good." So, he goes, "But I have no. Can you buy me some gas?" And I said, "Sure. It's a gas station, right? Will your truck make it to the gas station?" "Yeah." So I filled them up. I didn't just like put $2 in there. I put in like that was like 2008. So gas was probably $1.75, maybe 2.10 a gallon. I filled them up, and then I took them over there, and I said, "Okay, so here it is." He goes, "Well, yeah, there's no problem with this. Look at this. This is what's happened. This three pipes come together, and they're all different. One's metal, one's plastic, one's concrete, and one's really ancient. And so why don't we? And the ancient one, the metal one, is like going out a pipe in the intercoastal, and sure the EPA guys would like, why don't we just connect these two together? Right? We'll go to Lowe's and get a big thing, and I'll, he goes, "You got a phone?" I said, "Sure." And he called up his brother and his brother's friend, and they came over and they brought a few other guys and they dug, no equipment. They dug it out. I, went wait until the sun kind of was at 4 p.m. rather than straight up. And so, and I bought a bunch of real cold beer and they dug it up and they stuck the pipe in there and I cleared it, within, and they got this really amazing stuff at Lowe's that's like super duper toilet cleaner, but for like, septic lines, get rid of the smell. And so they got two jugs of that, and it's like gooey stuff. And so they put the pipes together. They kind of covered it up with this kind of not asbestos. Sure, it had asbestos, but it was this clingy tar concrete, and just packed the stuff around the two ends of that pipe and covered the whole thing. And then we, put some 20, really thick plastic tarp over it, and then put more glue on it, and just poured this stuff all over everything, and then filled it up, and it smelled like. And the lawyers came by the next day and they said, "That is amazing." Right? So the guy said, "Listen, we really don't have a place to stay." It had like little crystal cleared out everything inside the place, and there was a antique shop in Stewart. Had the guy come over. He said, "All these are antiques. I'll give you $5 grand for everything." Now, if you find something really, really amazing, that's going to be like $100,000. You got to be honest and cut us in. It had this beautiful trees, just everywhere, and pine trees on the other end. It was, and then on the other end near the water, pine, oaks, and pine. Really great little suite that had sliding doors that went out onto was well, the wall was falling down, so we framed it up and put garage doors in, glass garage doors. So when you rolled it down, you had a great view. It's just right when you pulled it up. We had these. $2 a piece. It cost like 50 cents to make, and really good coffee and wine any time of the day and night. And we also had absinthe and some other liqueurs. And so it was called either the blue door, the green door, or some color of a door. If you go, let's see, let's see, let's see what Mr. Google says. Let's see, how much juice do I have left? Probably another 15 minutes. Boop, 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 boop. Take my dad. No, sorry. Mm-hmm. The Blue Door Restaurant Cafe in Stewart, Florida. There it is. Look, there it is. Yep, that's it. Look at this thing. Yeah. So there's the front lawn, and it goes out to the main street, right? And it. This was a residential house, but because it was downtown, you could do whatever the heck you want. So the back was the law office. This was the and he had instruments. So we had instruments all over the wall. So if you knew how to play a guitar or a bass or a drum or a flute, they were right up there. Yep, let's see. So over here is the main street right there. And we just had the wildest, greatest music all the time. So that's a guy who just kind of went in to get a coffee, picked up a guitar, and started singing. You know, so that's the front lawn of the house. That's the front of the house. So, um, so, uh, so that was like 2008 when the crash happened, and we went and did that. And it because there were all these kids who had just graduated Harvard and Stanford and couldn't get a job and were living in mom and dad's basement. They were hanging out at that place, and it was unbelievably fun. And because it was all downtown, all the restaurants kind of closed. We just opened, right? And we had the greatest of time. And we did it for the fun of it, right? Because they, as lawyers, because of the crash, they were making more money, right? So was I, being a consultant, doing negotiations. So anyway, it was loads of fun, and and that was 2008. That's you know getting on to be almost in 4 years. That'll be 20 years. That's pretty amazing. And then I died in 2014, and I had already started. Um, I had sold most of my holdings, before 2008, right? I had a bunch of real estate all over the place in Virginia and North Carolina and Tennessee and Florida, and I sold most of it, right? And then I bought these two things with these guys, but they put up the money. I just found them and said, "Hey, why don't we do this?" And I had put most of my stuff into things that if the market crashed, I would do better. I shorted things, right? And so at the end of the crashy thing, about 2009, 10, man, I had more money than I had before. It was like, I'm trying to get rid of it, right? And I'm trying not to work, but I'm still making a lot of money at work. And because I tried to keep my income low so I didn't have to pay a lot of tax, right? Without having to lie. So, like I remember I did this one gig for this one law firm, and they said, "Wow, you're amazing. Why don't you do this more often?" I said, "What do you mean?" She goes, "Well, you tell us that you work about 11 weeks a year. If you did this every day, you'd be a millionaire." I said, "Need to be a millionaire, you know." So anyway, when 2014 happened, I was with one of those guys working on a project with him. I died and played spaghetti, right? And so all of my life, I understood this connection with God. I've had it, you know, I can remember back, uh, you know, uh, really to being in the crib with Emily, right? in Mammo, right? And Freeport, right? And in Harlem, and they were black, and I was African American. That's melanin challenge. That's what Mama used to say. You're black. No, she goes, you're African American, but you're, and no one ever said African American, but she had been a lawyer, and a doctor, and her husband was a lawyer too. And but after, and she practiced during World War II. Um, but when you know, in the war, she basically had to like clean rich people's houses. And she started a business doing it, so she was making pretty good money, right? And she was employing a lot of people. And her husband still worked as a lawyer at the ACLU and the union. And so that was my life. I always had an amazing community around me. I always had mentors, um, helping me to understand what the world is, who kept saying, "Don't worry about it. What you're seeing here isn't, this ain't what's really going on, right?" So, what can I say? That's how I got to be how I got to be. And now here we're entering. So I started doing the big splat shows. Oh, at least a good 5 years ago. And so I'm a storyteller, so I'm all over the place, right? I do a stream of consciousness show basically, and you just have to take it from you know JFK's assassination. But I mean, this all started, with the Pope in 1480 putting the bull out saying, yeah, the world isn't flat. Let's go out and take as much of it as we can, you know, and you can go kill anybody, steal anything you want, as long as they're not white and they're not Christian. If they're any other religion, any other color, you know, go for it. And if they're women, yeah, no matter if they're Christian or white, you can go after them too. And so we are reaping um, what we had sowed, right? And it's getting weirder and weirder. And this is all scripted to be this because we are heading towards. If you go, you have to realize that Roddenberry, Mr. Star Trek, before he went to Hollywood and wrote for Gunsmoke and Desilu and stuff like that, he was in naval intelligence, and he was sent to Hollywood to bring this storyline into the gestalt of the media, right? And he did a great job, you know. And he built a canon that we're building a new old Reich on. This is going to be like the fourth or fifth Reich, right? And it won't be. I mean, it's all about how you can prescribe your reality, right? And because none of this is all illusion, right? So if you can ground yourself, monotheism. I was in a church and the guy he couldn't even pronounce it. And monotheism, mono meaning one, theism meaning God. But if you take it into the Greek, Sumerian, and further back, the God they're talking about is love, right? And every God in every of all the religions, the Buddhist, the Shinto, the you know Muslims, the Jews, you name it, they all have a singular God, right? And even the pagans, you know, the earth-based pagans, there's Gaia, that's their singular God, Mother Earth, right? And that's why you need to be able to put your feet into that earth and ground yourself and go. How much time we got here? Okay, let's do this. And breathe this deep. In, and then out. Right? And I'm going to count from 1 to 3. And as I do, you're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper into a state of relaxation, conscious relaxation. See it clearly. Close your eyes. And what you're doing is you're coming home. That breath, filling your lungs up, lifts your diaphragm up. It opens your lungs. You're getting 80% more breath into your lungs. You're bringing 60% more oxygen into your bloodstream. You are expelling more toxicity. Your breath, you breathe in and expel close to 250,000 cubic feet of breath every day, right? Way more than you piss, shit, or eat, or sweat, or right, or vomit, or whatever. That's your breath is getting rid of more toxins than any other part of your body, and it's on a higher energetic level too. So uh, see that clearly. Right? Any questions? Your eyes closed. You're breathing deep. See it clearly. And you have your eyes closed and you can see the prana. That's the life force. That's the monotheism entering into your body, right? That you're breathing in Gaia, and you got your feet grounded, so you are like an electric circuit, right? They're just now realizing that we are the body electric, right? Back in the 60s when I was at the VA, and we were doing all kinds of crazy research in all kinds of schools, Cornell, Columbia, NYU, Duke, Harvard, Brookings, Rockefeller Institute. And we realized that everything's electric. The crass material is just that, crass material, right? And you are not your body, right? You are your consciousness. And your consciousness doesn't rest in the cottage cheese between your ears. What that is a RAM, random access memory. And that's like your eyes are right there, your nose is right there, your mouth is right there, your ears are right there. That's all your major sensory organs go straight into your RAM. So it quickly can, give the data out to different parts of your body, right? Uh, then you have your heart. It's pumping the blood through your body, right? And that's an electrical device. I mean, you have a heart attack, you fall dead, right? And what do? They zap you back, and with a lot of juice too, not just a little bit, right? But your hard drive is your heart. No, your CPU is your heart. Your gut, your intestines, where you have billions of little individual creatures. That's where all the info is stored. Right? Boy, I just had this gut instinct to do this, right? So keep breathing. And the prana is coming into your lungs, and you see it, this gold, and you feel the warmth. And as you're breathing in, that you breathe out more, so you can breathe in more. When you do that, you're coming home. Right? So see that clearly. You're coming home. And every day and every way, you're taking the piece of the earth and you're making it stronger. See it clearly. So there you are. You're right standing in front of your imaginary mirror. That's behind your eyelids. When you go to sleep, right? So, whatever religion you are, whatever political belief you are, right? Those are just thoughts. They don't exist, right? So when you go to sleep, right? Are you a Catholic? Are you a Jew? Are you a Protestant? Are you a Methodist? Southern Baptist? What are you? Right? You a guy, a girl? What are you? You ever think of that? Because your body, basically, when you go to sleep, your autonomic system takes over, and your consciousness goes, someplace else. Right? That's where you dream. You go to dreamland. That's why this show is named Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob, me, right? Your griot telling you stories, and don't believe a word I say. Go check it out. Like I told you a little story about the blue door, right? We did a little Google of it, right? I don't know who owns it now. I bet you the same kids still do, but they're as old as me. They might. I have no idea where they are. I haven't been back to Florida since 2014. So that's a good 10 years, right? Um, because I sold everything. Meaning, when I came out the other side and I finished the few contracts I had left, um, I basically realized I had to simplify my life. And I had bought the deep green, back in '03, and I had cleared it out and fixed it up, on the scale of the site. I did a site, the perfect site. But I had four pads that I could build big houses on, but I didn't. Right? So I live a very simplistic life. I barely have electricity. I have running water, but by hoses. I have no real plumbing. Right? I have a septic system, but again, it's not a super duper. Every now and then I have to because the septic line from the toilet I have isn't straight into it. It's on a flexible hose, and I have to go and jiggle it every 3 days to move the turds into the septic tank. Anyway, I mean, it's all legal. It's like just what that's what everybody around here. They have all these glamping sites where people's travel trailers are. That's exactly kind of what I got. I'm in that travel trailer. But those people that they just and what they're doing around here, they're not just building a building like this and then Airbnb it out. They buy 60 acres and they put along the lake, and they put a dock and a ramp, and they put a place where 20 to 40 people can put their travel trailer and either leave it there and pay them 3 grand a year, or pull in and spend $800 a week, or pull in for the night and pay 125. Right? And so that's what this whole area is turning into. So um, and they keep doubling down on the fiber optics. Everyone has to be connected. So they have enough internet here. We had no internet 5 years ago. Zip, right? Now we have enough for 90,000 people, and it's all going to those places. Guys like me who live out in the woods, when I say to the company, "Hey, what's it cost to hook me up?" They say $600, and it'll cost you 120 a month because it's just me. Whereas those other places, that's like 90 to 300 people, and within the amortization of the internet, that's we can give it to them for almost free because we're going to be stealing all their information. So you know, our politics is a joke. You know, uh, there isn't a single politician, not one, who isn't bought. Right? Doesn't have blackmail on them. Right? Because you see all these guys. It doesn't matter whether Republican or Democrat. They don't do what their handler tells them to do. They end up in court for some $300,000 that they stole out of these watches they got. But Oh, it's okay for the Supreme Court guys to do that, but at least at the moment, and I'm sure any of those guys, they will not be able to withstand the pressure. But just getting rid of Roe basically put about 60 million people in the United States under tremendous pressure, emotional, psychological pressure. And we're actually having more abortions than we did before getting rid of Roe. But back in the day, in the 70s, when Roe was passed, I said I was a lesbian, um, and I told my sisters, we now have to organize the politicians to put it in the Constitution that this is a right. Oh, no, this would be fine. We don't have to do anything more. I said, no, no, no. If the court can say you can have them, the court can say you can't. Uh, just look at the history. Nobody's looking at the history of anything. So it's not like Donald Trump is the most batshit president we ever had. No, we've had more batshit people than him. So it's good luck with that. And same thing with what's interesting, that picture of Biden like looking staring off into space while all the other notorieties were getting ready for a photo op. But he was on the stage and he was facing the other way, and there were some, right, and he was talking to the military guys. I mean, it's a day about the military guys. They were getting ready to do whatever they were going to do, but they were standing there waiting for the photo op of the important people, and he was talking to them because he thought talking to them was better than the stupid important people. But the picture was shown, and it was used to show, look, he doesn't even know where he is. No, he knew, because the picture was taken from far back. So from wide angle, you can see that he's talking to these guys, right? That are, below standing, he's about 3 or 4 feet above them on this stage, and they're down there. But from where the picture was taken, you can see very clearly the military guys, and he's talking to them. But the people who want to use it to show him that he's, a doddering old fool, um, zoom in to him, and he looks like he's like, looking at the clouds, right? So that's the reality of things. You have to go deeper than what you see. Bay City. Do you guys? You got to put everything in caps. I don't have my reading glasses. Do I vote? Oh no, I am I grew up around where George Carlin went to, grew up in Harlem, right? And I went to, when my grandma would have to go someplace, she would take me over to, PS 144 or whatever it was, and it was part of these three theological universities were there and had this school, and a lot of their teachers and such were teachers at this school. So because this was a school where they had like 40 different languages being spoken, because on Second Avenue, every 2 blocks was a different nationality: Lithuanian, Polish, Hungarian, and they're all speaking different languages, right? And then the center core was Afrikaan, and not just American Afrikaan, but everybody who came from anywhere. So had all these people speaking different African languages. And then on the west side, it was what Caribbean, but pretty much everyone's Spanish. Everyone's in Central and Center America, and all the Caribbean places. So that school had like 140 languages. And they go, well, they had to come and speak English. Well, fine, and these kids did, but when they first got there, they didn't. So it was an amazing school. So my grandma would just drop me off, and it was a safe place for me to be at 2 or 3 years old. Right, I would just kind of hang out with everybody, and my everyone knew my grandma. So and there were a lot of grandmas there, and that was like the union of grandmas. Like you couldn't do anything in Harlem without your grandma finding out. So and they didn't have police. They had grandmas. So um, basically, I was involved in politics big time. I had this friend of mine at NYU. I worked for Ralph Nader at NYPIRG, New York Public Interest Research Group, right? And I was the guy. I was his. I got at 22. I got the pegged as the itinerant scholar because I'd be sent to different universities to study with different people to get a perspective of this, that, and the other thing. And I was never ideological, right? I was just wanting to know, right? And so lots of the best of the best professors, even they may have had an ideological point of view, but seeing a student who is questioning everything but not specifically ideologically was like, wow, this guy's kind of cool. So that's what I did for a good deal of my life. And I had many different skill sets. I was a master electrician. I was an amazing physical and psychological healer. I was a political and legal scholar slash negotiator, organizer, did all those things, right? And because I just keep falling into these things to do. Like here, I'm out in the middle of nowhere, in the midst of a political brouhaha because the rich, the cockroaches from California and Texas and Florida and Charlotte and New York and New Jersey are coming here. Oh, I can't stand the Texas because see, North Carolina, Tennessee has no income tax, so all these rich people come here and not have to pay income tax, right? So and they have very little of any kind of, we have no Medicaid or Medicare, right? And so, you know, pretty much that's the motif, right? That's how much juice do we got left? No, we still got 10 minutes. So early on, in my 20s, I was very involved in environmental politics, right? And I was very involved with the state legislatures and national politics too. And when I was at NYU Law School, studying with this real dickhead of a state Supreme Court judge, thought he was God. Um, I met Carrie Shea and Gene Stillip, two of the greatest lawyers, and those guys could have made a freaking fortune, but they did. Well, Carrie did. She got into. Did you ever see this movie with Denzel Washington? He's a cop, and a bank gets robbed, and it's confusing, and blah blah blah. No money was taken. They were, and basically, it's this bank that has a lot of Nazi shit in it, and um, Denzel is a good detective, kind of figures out what's going on, but he does. He's a sharp dude, so he doesn't really blow the whistle on it. So the woman who played, Silence of the Lambs, but whatever her name is, she plays this part of this fixer, political fixer, and she's real sharp, and so she figures it out too, and she goes to the banker guy who's well known American, you know, um, blah blah blah, and but he's a Nazi straight up, right? And all during World War II, he made sure a lot of Jews got, and he's Jewish too, and make sure, go watch that movie, Anyway, so she figures it out and says, "Okay, so you're between a rock and a hard place because obviously there's somebody coming after you, and no one has a clue. They don't, and they haven't even shown up yet, and I can help you, but you got to tell me the story." And the guy goes, "I can't tell you the story." And she goes, "Well, this officer over here, he's a really smart guy." And he should be a captain by, he should be in the hierarchy, but because he's so smart, the rest of the guys in the hierarchy don't like him, and he's black, and he doesn't take bribes, but he doesn't rat on people. So I mean, he's a righteous cop that you want on your side. So I'm going to go talk to him and try and swing him, right? And so go watch that story because that was Carrie Shea. They took that Carrie, that woman played was Carrie Shea. That's what Carrie Shea would do, and she had me as he would take me to all these political parties, and I would read people. I'd read their palms, but I'd be that's my hook. Reading palms is just to get you talking to me and open, right? Because I tell a whole bunch of things about you that they never tell anybody else, and I don't do it in an embarrassing way, but I make them realize, oh boy, this guy can actually like see right into me, and that's when they open up. Because the more they try and close, the more they open up, right? So I was her magic um, druid, right? And we made a great team. So it was not a 9 to 5 job, but she would take me to all these great parties and to great places all over the East Coast, right? Up there at the Hattersons and the Hamptons and all the fancy schmancy places, where the people who think they're rich, not even close. They're paupers compared to those folk. Anyway, so you know, that's how I met Hillary Clinton, right? Because this was in the early '80s, and uh, what's his name? Bill had just become governor. I think the first or second time, I'm not quite sure. But anyway, he was rising up um, in the Democratic Party, and so they brought him to New York to meet all the New York politicals, and they had it in the Penta Hotel, and they had a ballroom where you could put 20,000 people. Had all these mezzanines, and up in the roof they had the follow spot guy, right? And so most of these parties, uh, Carrie would have this suit that I never wore except when I was with her. She'd have it cleaned. I would like look like $1 million boy, right? And so, and she would her chauffeur, who was a retired gangster slash police officer. Also, his most thing he loved was being a hairdresser. So I had really long hair. So every time, he would trim my beard and he would shape my hair and put it in a ponytail and he would braid it really nice and I would look really pretty frank and amazing and especially with a really good suit. And I was in good shape too. I weighed about 175 and carrying that 75-pound bag of tools everywhere in New York City, that keeps you in shape. But anyway, she brings me to this scene where everyone's going to meet um, Hillary and Bill. And will I be able to tell before the battery goes out? So she takes me up to there, and there's two guys, one in a J.C. Penney suit, and another one in like not a handmade suit, but a nicer suit, right? Something off the rack, but nicer. And this guy had $20 shoes. This guy had $70 shoes. Me, I came in looking like how I look, right? And it was hot. I had shorts and a t-shirt um, and flip flops, and came in, and it was comfy. It was not too. It was like super Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold. And the Palisade was over there, and they had this table and three chairs, and you could sit there and in front of me was binoculars and a little headset, right? And I was told that you know it was going to be wired to Bill, right? And it would have condenser mic so you could hear what's around, right? So a list of all the New York political flotsam and jetsam, and and a pair of binoculars, right? So I'm sitting around and people are mulling around, and I'm got the binoculars, and I'm like leaning over, just and the guy, goes, hey, we're not supposed to be seen. I said, come on, there's no light on. This it's black up here. No one's looking up here. Give me alone. So I'm looking around at, and I got a great view straight down at people, all these beautiful chests. Anyway, because people were dressed up pretty snazzily. And so, the crowd is seated, and then the guests, the power people come in, and it's a little introduction and da 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 da. And we're going to have a couple speeches and dinner, and then Bill will roam around and you guys can talk to him. And so they're doing that. And there's a cooler over there